Today you'll see two amazing bomber jackets made with beautiful prints, and you'll see a lot of sewing, including lining it and how to bag it out. Flowery bomber jacket sneak peek. Fascinating things to see. Stay with me. Hi sewing friends, I'm Karina from liftingpinsandneedles.com. Welcome to this channel that is all about sewing, limitless sewing. Today I have two jackets to share with you. They are a new pattern release from Itch to Stitch. I have been part of the tester team, and for this video I have teamed up with a friend. Her name is Chris. She has a YouTube channel called Sewjourns. She's recently hit 1,000 subscribers and we've been communicating for months on end now. We pattern tested together, but we're also sharing our process, through our chatting. So it was really fun. So please go ahead and check out Chris on her channel at Sewjourns. Go ahead and show her some love. She's got a lot of sewing to share with you as well. She made two versions just like me, and she made an amazing hack, like a real good hack. I'm super sure you're going to enjoy her video and her content. So please hop over to her channel after you watch my video. The pattern is called Causeway jacket and it's a bomber jacket. It's got princess seams on the front, but these princess seams are not curving here and straight down. They have a diagonal shape, and within that seam you have the option of putting an invisible zipper. That's the entrance to the pockets of the jacket. Those are optional. Princess seams there are super helpful because they help you get a really good fit at the bust. There are cup sizes here from A to double D, so that is awesome. The back is just one single piece, and then you have the traditional bomber style collar. You have a center zipper. In the center front you'll see a little piece that is made from the main fabric, and then the band is attached from there on, and there are these little corners there. One of the most important features of this jacket is that it's designed to be reversible. So you can choose two awesome fabrics that you might have and use one as the primary fabric, one as a secondary fabric, and all the sewing techniques have you come out with the exact same thing on the inside. So you could flip it, in and out, and you have two jackets in one. If you can't have a reversible jacket because you don't have the reversible zipper, you can do the exact same thing and just have a fully lined jacket, which is really well lined inside. Everything is super neat, super clean inside. You won't have any seams visible, not even in the cuffs, because the cuffs will be enclosed within the main fabric and the fabric that you have inside. Because this is a new release, it's 20% off till next Wednesday, the 21st. So if you like what you see in this video and the sewing process, you might want to try a style like that for yourself. If you want to get the pattern, don't forget to use my affiliate link if you would also like to support what I do in this channel. I get a little commission from there, and it doesn't cost you any extra to do so. So if you do use my link, thank you very much. I think a bomber doesn't ever go away. They've been around for a very long time already, and I've been an avid maker of bomber jackets already in the past. I have a few already in my wardrobe that I've made years ago, and I always enjoy wearing them and sewing them. So jumped at the chance to test for Itch to Stitch again. Love the process. I am a very big fan of this brand, and the quality of the patterns and the drafting, everything is just really superb, really outstanding in my opinion. Designed for woven fabrics, they need to be light to medium weight, they need to not have any stretch, and the variety of fabrics that you can choose is really varied. Within the testing groups, people made it out of all sorts of fabrics, even quilted fabrics, lightweight quilted fabrics, fake leather, wool, crepe, rayon twill, tencel twill. You name it, you can make it if it's a lightweight woven. For the fabric that goes inside, you can choose another main fabric like the ones I've just mentioned, or you can just use your lining fabric that you would use typically. So I have just chosen a poly satin as my lining. It's the type of lining I use all the time. That is what I've chosen for my tester version. I did go ahead and make a second jacket afterwards, and there I sort of strayed from the fabric recommendations, and I made my second one out of chiffon, and I lined it with rayon twill. The thing about having the jacket be reversible, when you wear your jacket open, you might be able to see this little area there when it flaps open, or if the jacket moves. So I do think they need to be coordinating fabrics, maybe one print, one solid. That's just my opinion. I wouldn't want to make this out of two printed fabrics that don't match each other, just something to think about. But mine aren't reversible. Both of my jackets are just fully lined because I don't have access to that reversible zipper that you needed. So I just used a normal separating zipper. You need some ribbing fabric for the bands, the cuffs and the collar. If you can't find that, you can choose some structured interlock. Because this pattern is new, it includes the full size range from 00 to 40 US. So it's going to work for a lot of people. As for the upper sizes in the double D cup, the bust will go up to a 63-inch circumference and the hips up to a 62-inch circumference. There's approximately 6 inches of positive ease at the bust and the hips, but consider that you have 2 layers, so that is in theory when you measure your pattern pieces. But when you have 2 layers on top of each other, the garment just naturally becomes a little bit smaller inside because of the bulk that the second fabric or the lining fabric creates inside. I would suggest choosing your size based on your body measurements, looking at the size chart and choosing that size. You will have a bomber that fits you like it's meant to be appropriately. Bomber jackets are not meant to be tight fitting. And also the band that is sewn at the bottom is drafted a tad smaller than the body of the jacket, so it will bring it in a little bit at the hips. The length, depending on the size, whether it's a size 00 or a 40, it goes progressively a little bit longer. So anywhere from 22 inches to 27 inches if you measure from the nape of your neck down. And depending on how tall you are, that might hit the mid hip or the full hip, just depends. In my case, I made a straight size 14 with a C cup. The only length adjustment I made was for the sleeves. I did make a muslin, for sure. I made a red non-wearable muslin, and I determined that I really like the original length. I wouldn't have wanted it longer like that, so I didn't add to the body, although I should have because I'm 2 inches taller than what the patterns are drafted for. Up close and so personal today is a little bit long. I will divide every section of the sewing aspects into chapters, so if you look at the description box, you can click on the areas that are most interesting to you. Maybe you have already made a lined jacket like this already, and you just want to see the zipper, maybe, I don't know. Or you can just watch the whole thing, because I think if you want to try this pattern and purchase it for yourself, this could be super helpful for you. Things you see here that are not easy to find in video format of someone showing you actually how to do it, I've done my best to show you, focusing on how to put in the zipper, the collar, the cuffs, how to line it and bag it all out. So let's hop into there.
What can I do? Time flashed by and I woke up on the other side of the moon.
These are the main pieces for the jacket. This is the back that's cut on the fold. This is the side front, princess seam you can see there, and that is the center front. Here we see the 2-piece sleeve, the upper sleeve, the under sleeve. Now for all these pieces, you cut exactly the same for the second fabric that goes inside. If you're doing reversible, it would be another type of main fabric, or if you're just doing it lined, this would just be cut out of lining fabric. Just this piece, the center front, you'll find things that need to be interfaced. So at the center, you need to reinforce the area that will have the zipper. So you cut a strip of interfacing that's 1 inch wide, it's long, but 1 inch, and you fuse it along the center. So I've done that on both sides. Now on this little corner, there is a little dot that you need to mark, and then you need to fuse a square that's 1 inch. Fuse that on top, mark again the dot. This is going to be an important reference point to attach the band that's made out of ribbing at a later stage. Same as along this princess seam, there is another dot, and you also need to fuse interfacing there with another 1 inch square. Along the top on the shoulder seams, you also need to reinforce this with a strip of interfacing. You can see it's slightly away from the edge, so it will be caught within the seam when I sew these shoulder seams. These triangle notches that you see on the center front, at the bottom and at the top, are to do with the zipper insertion. Same as that dot there, it's very important that you mark those accurately. And then along these princess seams, you will find notches that match. These are other pieces that you don't cut out of main fabric, you cut out of ribbing, or if you don't have ribbing, it could be a stable interlock type fabric. I have found navy heavy cotton spandex that I'm going to use. I think it's going to be appropriate and it matches my main fabric. And over there I have zippers, metal teeth separating zippers. It would have been ideal to have a reversible zipper, but I couldn't find one. I prefer to have extra long ones and just cut the teeth off at the top. On the collar piece, you'll see some notches there that you need to mark. Those will match the shoulder seams when you're putting the jacket together. First steps after doing all that interfacing business was to stay stitch necklines. The front has two pieces, these different types of princess seams, because usually princess seams go from there straight down, but this one goes diagonally like that, and I think that's really cool. In this area there is an optional pocket. The entrance to that pocket is with an invisible zipper, and there are two notches here, there and there. If you are sewing the zipper, you would sew up to there with your normal stitch length, then swap to a basting stitch from here to there, and then pick up from that notch and sew again with the normal stitch length, and you would reinforce these two areas. Then you would get your invisible zipper and center it there and do the whole technique for this. That is where they would go, and then you would sew the pocket bags onto this area there. You can see that this seam allowance is pressed open, and then from there on the seam allowance is together and pressed up. Remember, there was a small section where there was a little square of interfacing placed there, and there was a dot. Before putting the side front together with the center front, you would snip into that area where that dot was and open this up there. It is quite a curve here, and by snipping into there, it will allow you to sew this really easily, because this will just stretch out this part there without it pulling. So that needs to happen there. And that also allows you to press these seam allowances in different directions. In theory, you would need to snip, do a little bit of snipping into this curve. I don't really think it's necessary with this fabric. I have been able to press it properly. On the outside, it looks super smooth. Like, I don't feel like I need to clip. If I can get away with not snipping, I don't want to, although it is technically correct. Then you have your back that's just cut on the fold. You have simple side seams there. This is the other side, and shoulder seams here on the top that have been pressed open. Basically, all the steps you did for the main fabric, you would do the exact same thing for the fabric that goes inside, or for the lining if you're just doing it lined and not reversible. Mine is not going to be reversible, it'll just be lined. And I had enough of the main fabric to cut the center front piece out of the main fabric. I like that. I think I'm going to be happy with that. And then on the side, I have lining fabric. And on the back as well, I will have the same type of lining fabric on the sleeves. Everything I did on the center front piece on the main fabric, I did to this one. This center area for the zipper has interfacing. This little square there has interfacing. That little square there had interfacing where you clip to sew on this princess seam. It's the same. The only difference with the lining is that you choose one of these side seams and you only sew it partially. So you see there's an opening there. This opening is where the jacket will be bagged out when you're uniting the lining to the main fabric at a later stage.
Don't you think this is starting to wear on me? You've been raining down like hail.
This is a sleeve that's already been set in. I did some gathering between the notches, double notches, and the single notch here on the top. You will go over the seam that unites the two pieces for the sleeves. I've pressed those seams open. You can see that the gathering there is not much, not hard to set in. I have absolutely no puckers, and sewing the sleeve like this with the main body on the top and the sleeve on the bottom is easier because the feed dogs help along. So if you look at this jacket on the outside, this is looking super pretty. After sewing on the main sleeves, we need to put the cuffs on the bottom, and this is the underarm seam. That's the one that joins with the side seam of the jacket. So that is a reference point, and then I've divided the sleeve into half, so I've got a pin on the other side. And I've done the same with the cuff. The cuff was just sewn and then folded wrong sides together. There's a seam in there. And I've also divided this in half, and you can see how much smaller the cuff is to the sleeve. So I'm going to put the sleeve inside the cuff, and I'm just going to stretch this cuff to fit in there. So once you do this, the cuff will be super snug against this, and that means it will be stretched evenly all the way around, and when you sew it onto the bottom of the sleeve, it will be super even. I have already done this other one, and you can see on the inside how the main fabric looks gathered into the cuff. It's not gathered, it's just that the stretch here has been stretched to its capacity and then sewn, and then it just goes like that. So when you look at this sleeve at the bottom, it will be all super even like that.
I have tried to give you my soul, but you can't love something you own.
Okay, so that's done. You can see how it looks gathered, but it's actually not. It's just the elastane in the knit bringing it all in. This is my collar piece. There are some notches here that will match the shoulder seams. And now this needs to be put onto the neckline. This is the neckline of the jacket. You're looking at the wrong sides up. Shoulder seams right there. Stay stitch has been done. And on the centers, you will find a triangle and a dot. This is the dot that marks where the collar needs to reach on both sides. So I'll go ahead and mark where the center back is so I can match it to the collar. Okay, so I've taken the time to pin my collar on very nicely. Center backs match, these notches match the shoulder seams right there, and then following the curve to this front. Now on this other side we have a dot there. That is actually, I've got a pin right through it, but there is a dot on the pattern. It's marked like a circle actually, but I prefer to mark it as a dot. So my dot is smack in the center of that little circle on the pattern. When you sew at the 1/2 inch seam allowance from there, so that distance there, this end of the collar right there has to be right on that dot. So if you see the edge of that collar, that's why I put a pin right there. It matches that dot right there. That needs to be super exact because it's got to do with how it's going to be finished in the end, so that the collars are level and right on the edge. So on this side too, you see that pin that marks the edge there at the seam allowance of 1/2 inch there. The edge of that collar is right at that dot right there. So here just be careful because there's a curve. Look, I don't like snipping into the fabric before sewing on the collar. I prefer to sew it with the fabric intact and then snip. That's my approach. If I snipped underneath and my fabric moved a little bit, you know, I might end up sewing in areas where it's already been snipped and I can't see what's going on under there, so I'd rather snip afterwards.
Time flashed by and I woke up on the other side of the moon. The sun don't rise on the light.
Okay, I want to confirm that this dot here, when I poke through it, when I go through the other side, I'll have the edge of the collar right there, and it is. You can see the edge of the collar is right there at the dot. So that's important, that is super important. Now I'm happy to go and snip into these little curves here. No drama now because I've already sewn it. This is my center front. I'm going to start by putting the zipper on the right wearer's side. That's just how I usually start my zippers. You've got this extended piece here that will have a band at the bottom. That's why that looks like that. And then at the top, we've just done the collar. This is my long zipper. I prefer to use a really long one and just cut teeth at the top. I have marked on this other reverse side with chalk that this is the wrong side of the zipper. This is the right side because you have your pull right there. So I'm going to take my whole zipper, put it right sides together on the fabric. You can see the chalk there that signifies wrong side, so right sides together, and at the bottom the zipper stop has to be right in the middle of that triangle right there of the triangle. I've put a pin through there and I'm going to align the zipper stop right there, the edge of the zipper tape right to the edge of the fabric. Up the top there's another triangle, but we'll sort that out later. I'm going to pin and hand baste this zipper down. Once I've got that on, I'm going to separate it at a later stage. I'm just keeping it together for now. So I'll just do some quick hand basting. Okay, so I've got my zipper tape basted on just with any thread. The zipper stop is right in the middle of that triangle as it should be, going all the way up. And up here, we have the triangle and there's also a middle point right there, so that's where my basting goes up to. At this point I'm going to separate this, so I have just this side of the zipper tape right there. I can see the half of the triangle there because this is where this needs to be folded like this in like a 45-degree angle like that, and this is the section where some teeth need to be removed. Look at all this excess that I have there. I'm going to actually poke a pin through the center of this triangle so that I can see what that is right there, because that is exactly the height where that fold needs to happen right there. You can see that horizontal pin there, that is where the fold needs to happen, right there at the half point of that triangle. So basically from here onwards, let's say from there, let's cut 1 tooth less. From where I poked the pin, I'm going to remove all these teeth, 1, 2, 3, all of them gone. And I don't really use anything fancy to do this. I just take a pair of pliers. Okay, so that was annoying but doable. Now I have this section that has no teeth and that is free to be folded over like that. So you have all this bit folded over and you have that last zipper tooth right there. I'm just going to do some quick basting here to hold this down so it won't go anywhere. So now you are going to baste this on with 3/8 seam allowance.
Time flashed by and I woke up on the other side of the moon.
Okay, so that one side is done, and now the same thing needs to be done with the other side. I'm going to put this other zipper tape right sides together with the other side. Remember, I've marked what the wrong sides are, so I know what the right side is right there. This is annoying though because we have this, so I'll try to get that out of the way. And the same as I did with the other one, I'm going to match the end of the zipper stop to the middle of that triangle right there. And I will do exactly the same thing as the other side. Pin all the way up to a certain point and then pull out some teeth, do the same thing. So I'll show you when that's done. Here you're looking at the jacket with a zipper that's partially sewn. So this is the side that has been sewn with the machine, basted with the machine. This other side is the one I have just basted by hand. I haven't sewn it by machine, and I like to check that everything is perfect before I sew it down. First thing I want to check is that it's level at the bottom, that I don't have one longer than the other, that something's off. I was really careful to match the zipper stops on both sides to the half of that triangle. But you know, sometimes something changes. It's always good to come and check. You know, your cutting mat is perfect because you can align it on one of these lines, and this is really good. It's really even, so I'm happy with that. Okay, at the top you can see that I have this side that has already got that fold and everything, so that is aligned right there. So that side is ready. I still have got this side long, and I'm going to zip this up as much as I can up to where that last tooth is, but maybe just one below it, just right there. Okay, I am going to put a pin right there because I know the zipper tooth I want to cut out is from this one onwards. Look at it like that. I don't have one of these sides higher than the other. That is super important because it's so visible on your jacket when you have one side higher than the other. So just make sure that everything is aligned. If something has moved and it's not, try again, try and baste again. At this stage you're still putting the zipper in, you haven't put the lining in or anything. So I'm happy that these align here on the top really well, and the same at the bottom. Now I'm going to go ahead and baste by machine and sort out this little bit as well. Okay, this is the second zipper tape. I have taken off teeth, trimmed and folded. If I put a pin through the middle of this triangle, you can see that the fold is right at that height right there. And if you compare both of these and you try to zip, if you compare them both and you try and zip it up, it'll match here on the top. This is the whole completed band sewn together. Those there will match the side seams. These little ones are the front, and this extended one is the back that I cut on the fold. So for now I have a main jacket, I have a lining jacket. Both of them have sleeves put in, everything. The main already has the cuffs basted on, the collar basted on, and the zipper basted on. So now we need to put these right sides together. Bend my main jacket there, right sides up, and put the lining on top, right sides together. And what needs to match at this point is the bottom bits here. So at the bottom, these two need to match. That needs to be sewn, 1/2 inch seam allowance. If I see that I can't get that accurate, I might even hand sew that little bit there because my zipper presser foot is a bit bulky. As I suspected, I can't actually sew this area with this zipper presser foot because that bit there is too bulky. It's a shame. That's okay. I really want precision here in this jacket, and if that means I have to sew about 1 inch of hand sewing, I will. So I will start sewing sort of past that bulky area there. So basically from there to there, I'm going to sew by hand, just careful. You won't tell, no one's going to know, but I'll be able to sew at the correct seam allowance. It's just that presser foot is just too bulky. On this other side that has that tiny little zipper metal area, not like the other one where it's really thick, I think I'll be able to sew at 1/2 inch. This is one of the bottoms where I've just sewn and pressed the seam open. That's done. And then at the beginning stages, we had these dots there, actually little circles. I marked the middle of those circles into dots because I find it easier, just more accurate. There's a 1-inch square of interfacing there to secure that, to reinforce. And from the dot, you had to stay stitch 1 inch above and 1 inch that way. And this is where this needs to be snipped into that corner, not through it, but just as you can, sort of like that. That's what I'm happy with. This process is repeated on the other side of the jacket. So you will have this exact same thing over, look, it's looking like a hot mess, but you will have this exact same thing on the other side. So I have gone ahead and stay stitched, marked where I need to sew, and we'll snip into there and snip into there. And now comes a part where a little precision needs to happen when putting the bands onto these areas. This will extend and will allow this to happen easier. This is the band. Here you can see the seam. This is the front. These are the center fronts, and there are these dots that you need to mark on the fabric. They are basically 1/2 inch from there, 1/2 inch from there, that intersection that marks the dot. So I've got the dots there. We're looking at the bottom of the jacket. This is the main jacket. We have the lining there. That is the short end that was sewn, pressed. And these little corners were the ones that were snipped. Here we have the band. This is the front piece of the band. That is the side seam there. Dots that were marked. And these need to match these dots right there. And then you need to sew from dot to dot there. Now we're at the machine and it's that dot to that dot, but I want to do it from the main side of the fabric up so I can actually see where I snipped. So just holding these together, I'm just going to flip this way so that this is the side that I'm seeing. I still have right sides together of the fabric with the band, and you can see the dot there where I snipped into, dot right there, and I'm going to put a pin through it and then put a pin through the dot of the band there, the yellow dot. So that matches there, and on the other side the same. So I prefer sewing with the main fabric looking up at me and the band at the bottom. I'm putting the needle right into the dot there, taking out that pin, and now sewing at 1/2 inch seam allowance.
This is starting to wear me. You've been raining down like it.
So I'm leaving those long tails there, and I'll reinforce that by hand. This is the side that I have just sewn from dot to dot there. I've got the whole jacket with the fabric right sides up. Now we go to this side that hasn't been sewn, and you can see that the band is there. So it needs to stay straight like this, and then you need to put it like that and then sew it. So you'll find that you need to move things out of the way to sew this end. I'm going to also be sewing it like this, just like I did the one that you just saw, so that the main fabric is on the top, and I'll pin from dot to dot and sew that side there. So I've got the other side pinned from dot to dot, so that same as the other side.
I have tried to give you my soul.
Okay, here you can see the whole jacket extended, fabrics are right sides up, the main jacket is up there, the lining is there, the band is in the middle. And what needs to happen now is that you need to fold the band lengthwise, wrong sides together, and baste them together from dot to dot. So basically like this, put these wrong sides together lengthwise. At the centers here, you have this sewn onto there, and you need to baste from dot to dot, but not catching any of this fabric, just catching the band. Now that the band has been basted together, it's just one layer. What I'm going to do now is sew it to the lining. You can see the linings there. So from that dot all the way to the other side. But the thing is, the band is shorter, as you can see, and it needs to be stretched to fit the bottom. So in essence, you would need to sew it on this side. but when you sew it on this side, you can't see underneath where that snip is. So what I'm going to do, exactly from where I've sewn that other point, it's partially sewn up to that corner, I'm going to sew with this side, right sides up, from exactly that dot, trying hard not to get a pucker, for about 1 inch. I'm going to sew that down looking at it like this, and I'll do the same all the way on the other side. On the other side, I've got it pinned the same from that dot there. From that dot down, it's already been sewn, so it's up to that dot. I'll sew just that little bit with this looking up. Once that's out of the way, the corner's out of the way, I'll just flip this and sew the band while I stretch it to match the bottom. So I just want to sew this little bit with this right sides up, being careful with this corner there. I can see exactly where I stopped sewing last time, so put my needle right there. And I don't backstitch, I secure by hand. Okay, let's see how this corner looks. Beautiful. So that is looking super nice. I'm quite happy. This little millimeter of a pucker will go away when you press it, but otherwise it's looking like a really nice corner. So I'll repeat on the other end over here. On this side, I'm starting from a little beyond there and going to the dots because I'm on the other side. That corner is looking pretty sharp as well. Super happy with that. Now that that little section was sewn, I'm going to flip it the other way around and now sew from that place there, sewn up to there, and I'll sew the rest on, stretching the band slightly to fit the lining at the bottom. So this band has been basted onto the bottom of the lining, and now the same thing needs to be done but with the main fabric, and now with the 1/2 inch seam allowance. So over here you see this attached to the lining, but the main is still flapping around. So now this needs to happen this way. So I'll just repeat exactly the same process to sew the main fabric now to this. Do the little bit here with this facing up, the same as on the other corner, and then flip it and then stretch all this to match the side seams with the 1/2 inch seam allowance. So the final stitch will be a little further than that one that was done at 3/8. Okay, now that the band has been sewn on both sides, it's all attached at the bottom. We still need to attach the lining to the main fabric all along the center front and the neckline. So where that seam was that was united first, that short little seam, you need to put that zipper in there, close it there, bring that seam allowance out of the way, and pin all the way up, up, matching this neckline on the top, making sure that the collar is inside, sandwiched between the lining and the main. And you'll pivot there, go all the way down, all along the neckline and down the other center front. And that will close up the jacket. The jacket is still inside out. The sleeves are out of here. You're supposed to keep them outside. And everything has been pinned here in the center. Parrots. Centers have been pinned all along the neckline, on the top, and then down the other center front. It's important that when we sew, we pivot exactly at that dot. Remember that dot there that's on the top of the neckline? That's exactly where we sew, and we pivot to continue to the neckline, and same as on the other side. So I'll be sewing the parts that have the zipper with the zipper presser foot, and I'll continue to sew the neckline with the zipper presser foot. I've done that before. That's how I can get a good result without having to switch presser feet, so it'll just be one continuous go. After sewing all the center front, the neckline from this jacket, we still have these sleeves that we need to unite so that the cuff is enclosed between the main and the lining. So we have the lining piece here, my navy blue. What you need to do is fold it out like that a little bit, so you have part of the right side of the lining fabric showing. Then you have to get this. Make sure to never twist your sleeve. Put your lining sleeve inside the main sleeve right there. Just push it all in there. Once you have your lining sleeve inside the main fabric, you can see how you can put your hand inside and catch these. So you have a wrong side of the main, a wrong side of the lining fabric, and the cuff already in there. And you need to match the same seams. You know, these sleeves have 2 seams, so those need to match. This one here is matching the one that goes at the back of your arm, and as you turn it, you'll match the underarm seam. So those need to match there, and then the rest you'll need to go stretching out these to match. So it'll be a fiddly sew. I have already done that on this other sleeve. So you can see where I put my lining fabric inside. Here I'm going to sew all these layers together, making sure all the seams match. I have the main and the cuff already under there, and it'll be a little bit fiddly.
I have tried to give you my life, but you can't see in the dead of the night. I'm alone.
Now it's a moment of truth. It's time to see the beauty. These sleeves are together there, sewn like that. We've just done that. That was pretty fiddly, but perfectly doable, and it unites them. Sandwiches the cuff inside so that you have a clean finish inside. So if you're doing reversible, you can wear your jacket either side and you won't have a seam on the cuff. So we'll find the opening that we left on one of these side seams. There it is from the beginning. And I just start doing this. I don't like pulling it out. I just sort of let it come out on its own. And the whole thing will come out of this, even the sleeves. See, there is one sleeve out with a cuff. Perfect. And the other side coming out through there. Beautiful. Now these little corners, they needed to be cut a little bit to reduce bulk. You can see how clean the zipper comes out of there, and where we have these sort of corner areas there in the front and on the inside. So this will work if it's reversible. It will look exactly the same on both sides. My jacket isn't reversible, but the technique is exactly the same. The only difference is that the zipper is reversible, not this one. The opening where the jacket was bagged out of here needs to be sewn closed. This is my tester version. It is a print, so you can't see the princess seams because they are just hidden. They're right there. But you can tell with the fit, because the fit is super good on the bust. There's no bunching up here or like drag lines anywhere. It fits amazingly. This is a crepe that I would say is a medium weight crepe. It's not a very light crepe. I wouldn't have wanted to make a blouse out of this, for example. So I thought it was really good for a jacket. There are even some hummingbirds there. And I love having a jacket like this that's navy based because I could wear it with solids and with colors, and I just could see the jacket made up when I saw this fabric. It was not hard for me to pair these together at all. Like, it was a no-brainer for me. I chose a zipper, just like a really light gold. I thought it would match better these colors here. You can see I've tried to match the patterns there on the center, you know, like that flower. You know, when you have a zipper, you're always going to cut something in half, but I tried to do my best so that it looks nice. Cotton spandex for my cuffs and my bands. These corners here, I took my time and I took extra care to get them to turn out super nice and exact without puckers. And inside, it's the same. I showed you sewing the band onto the lining first, and then the main fabric. I think in the instructions it's the other way. You sew it first to the main fabric and then to the lining. It doesn't really matter which order you do, because you're still going to end up sewing the band to everything with the 1/2 inch seam allowance. So the first step is basting it at 3/8. The second step is 1/2 inch. But then again, the sewing I show you is with my own spin to it as well. There are several things that I do change a little bit around the order, just because I find it easier that way, and that's how I like sharing my sewing with you. I do produce this content independently from the pattern companies, you know what I mean? So it's my take, you know? On the center, I really was careful, and I checked many times that these things were going to be even before I did the final stitches here. I really wanted these colors to match and all this area to match. You know, you could get something looking like that if you're not careful. So those are things that are just so important when I sew, and I do take my time there. I would say the jacket took me about 12 hours to sew, but that was including filming everything for you, so every single step was slower. So it is a jacket that will take you a few hours, or maybe it could take you 2 days. Easier to sew than the Zero Alto jacket that I've shown you in my last video, the one with the zipper welts and all that. I think that one was a bit lengthier than this. So I just have poly satin in there. It's super soft fabric, and I chose to do the center front area with the same fabric for the lining as well. I think it just gives it a little bit more structure, and when the jacket moves and flaps around, you will see the same thing. Here's my Causeway Bomber with a fitted lace dress that I've made years ago. Love it. It's a little bit short, but I still wear it. I think it can match a lot of things, but this is the first thing I found. Some heels. I didn't make length modifications to my jacket, so it's the original length. So the jacket might look a little bit shorter on me just because I'm a little bit taller and I didn't adjust, but I did that on purpose. I did lengthen the sleeves though, and I just love it. It's really nice. The band at the bottom is slightly smaller than the main fabric, so it'll bring it in a little bit, and I like that. I think it fits really well. This little section here is the fiddliest of all, the construction. If you just take a bit of time and you just need a little bit of patience to get this area to turn out nice and square and precise. I love how mine turned out, and it looks the same on the inside. That one looks the same. The band brings it in at the hips a little bit. Here we have the sleeves. I lengthened it by 3/4 of an inch, and that is good for me because with the cuff on, it reaches exactly where it should. It's not longer or shorter, and everything is really clean inside as well. The lining, you know, the cuff is tucked into the lining and the main fabric. So if it was reversible, I would be able to wear this the other way around. Only mine isn't. I'm going to turn it inside out so you could see how this would look if I'd chosen to actually have a reversible jacket. You know, I have lining fabric on the sleeves. In this way, you can see the shape of the princess seam and the fit. Shiny fabric everywhere. The band is enclosed within the two fabrics, and so is the cuff. Only I don't have a reversible zipper. The lining feels nice inside, and I'm happy. I could only do what I can. I just don't have the right zipper to make this reversible. The technique is the same, you know, it's just that I don't have the right zipper. I still love it like this, and it is lined. I love lined jackets, so love it. Here you can see the traditional bomber style collar. It sort of finishes at a point there, and then it goes out taller to the back like that. It's really nice and fun to sew. I've sewn these types of collars so many times, and I always love how they look. I took special care that the zipper is at the same level and that everything is level here on the top. It's a really good idea to take your time on those little areas because they're like close to your face and they are sort of visible in a jacket. So I love how that turned out. If this area flaps open like that and I'm wearing it open, I wanted this to be from the same main fabric and not from the shiny lining fabric I'm using everywhere else. So that's why I did cut this center piece entirely out of the same fabric here, so it looks nicer. Love that. Here I have my bomber paired with my Eddystone jeans, no stretch denim. They are very, very nice to wear, nice and soft now, like worn in. I love them, and they will go with everything, of course. This is navy, so thick navy and denim always look good together, and I just have a simple cami underneath. The statement is the jacket, the outfit is the jacket, everything that goes with it is just going to be plain and simple, and I love it. Chiffon was not one of the recommended fabrics, and the vision I had for the jacket, which was to just line the body and not the sleeves, to have sheath sleeves, was definitely not part of the pattern. So I couldn't sew that vision I had for the pattern test. But after the pattern test, I usually always make a second one with a little bit of a change. Minor change, I mean, just not lining the sleeves basically and straying from the fabric recommendations. So I have this chiffon. It's beautiful, it's black, it's got some flowers on it. I was also very careful about pattern matching here to have this make sense. I've lined the inside of the jacket with a rayon twill, a black rayon twill. So all this area is opaque, it's all fully lined. And I have sheer sleeves. You can see the skin. The chiffon has sort of stripes in it. Some areas are sheer, some other areas are more opaque in the same fabric. Now the difference I did with this one is that every single seam inside is serged because I have all the armhole area open. So everything, even the collar inside, when I sewed the bands on at the bottom, I sewed everything with the machine and I serged it. So it's all really clean inside. My sleeve seam is just sewn and serged. And then my lining has been bound. I made a bit of bias tape from my main fabric, you can see it there, and I just bound the armholes. So I have a free sleeve going on there, and this just finishes there. So when you look inside, I have stabilized shoulder seams, I have serged everything. So for this one, you don't need to leave an opening on the side seam to bag it out from, because you can just do it through one of these armholes. So it was extremely easy. I wanted to have a more substantial fabric on the inside just to give the jacket more structure. Sewing a pattern the second time is always super enjoyable. And now I have a bomber that I really wanted to have in colors that I love, and I know I'm gonna keep it around for a long time. Here's my second Causeway Bomber chiffon with sheath sleeves. Only the body is lined but not the sleeves. With this one I actually had black ribbing to put on the bottoms and everywhere, and it's not just a heavy cotton like the other one. All the body of the jacket looks opaque because I do have rayon twill underneath. And you can see the band brings it in at the hip a little bit. The band is 90% of this measurement, so it's only 10% shorter, so it's not going to bring it in super tight either, it's just right. I also took great care in that, even if no one's going to see it, because this jacket also is not reversible. I've got rayon twill in there, so maybe you can see the transparency there on the stripes of this fabric, so you can see my skin through there. So putting in the cuff with the sleeve was super easy, just sew it on and serge the ends. Took great care to sort of match this area of flowers here, so that flower just goes off there a little bit with a zipper in between. But I think the print here makes sense, you know, and I don't have a flower on any apex. They're in other places. You can see here at the center, the zipper matches nicely to the collar, you know, I took great care. Super nice to slow down with projects like this that will give such nice results. I'm so happy. I really dreamed of having this bomber in a chiffon. I know it strays from the instructions because it hasn't lined the sleeves. I love my chiffon bomber. I always wanted to have one. And the colors in this print are just everything. A fitted ponte dress that I made a few years ago, and there's red on the jacket, so I definitely wear it like this to go to church. Love the style. This is just very me. Love it with red, and that's why I was really careful to get the red flowers placed in different areas so that you can see the red. There's red on the front, there's red on the back, and that means I can wear a red dress or a red skirt or anything red. I love that because red, you know, is one of my faves. Just the jacket of my dreams, really. crepe with poly satin, cotton spandex collars, and instead of ribbing, and chiffon with rayon twill inside and actual ribbing everywhere. So love them. I am very delighted with them. I can't wait to just use them in my life and wear them out. I love them both so much. Because the Causeway jacket is a new release, it's 20% off until next Wednesday, which is the 21st of October. So if you would like to try this pattern for yourself, please use my affiliate link if you would like to also support me in the work that I do on this channel, providing all this content. I do make a little commission from there and it doesn't really cost you anything extra. So thank you so much if you use my link. I have really been enjoying these projects. You don't know how much. Just right up my alley. The style that I love, the fabrics that I love, and the style of sewing that I love. Great instructions, great pattern. What more to say? Don't forget to visit my friend Chris in her channel Sewjourns. Once you finished watching my channel, go and check out her amazing jackets. She's also made two. So there's a lot to see from both of us here in this collaboration. Thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you again very soon. Bye.